That's right. You don't want to miss this on Bitcoin. We got to be focused. We got to be ready because things are getting very, very clear and you do not want to miss out. I'm going to show you guys exactly what I'm talking about right now. But to get it set up, we're not going to talk about Bitcoin, inflows, any positive or negative news out there. We're not going to focus on any of that. It is nice to see that Tether is, aggressively still holding on to and acquiring more Bitcoin. That's very nice to see. But what we really want to talk about is tariffs and how this is affecting the Bitcoin structure right now and how the next structure is building up. And we want to be prepared to not miss it, but also be prepared so it doesn't hit us, right? In a bad way. So what I mean by that is that we already know that April 2nd, we have a lot of tariffs uh, you know, piling in, a lot of auto tariffs and so on, and a lot of this can cause short-term inflation. Transitory inflation, of course, is all going to be, eventually when tariffs go away and they get organized a little bit more and taken care of, next thing you know, inflation is going to fall a lot, and then we're going to go ahead and start moving forward with, continuing with that bull market. But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. You guys got to remember that we had in the back of our heads, we knew that it's very likely for a third wave deep value, you know, price in Bitcoin can easily happen again, where we see a third deep value dip happening right below 80K. And I kept saying that we're trying to look for a 5 wave move up to confirm that the low is in so we can start continuing our bullish structure. On our way up to the third wave, on our way up, we couldn't surpass the point or the 1.38 extension at 88.8K. We struggled to pass it. There's too much resistance. And then we started forming a little bit of a lower low and a lower high formation. I said this is kind of holding itself quite a bit. The RSI isn't showing to be too oversold every time we're at the bottom of these dips. So, we're trying to find support within these, ascending support lines. And if that fails, which most likely it will, we're going to be looking at this as our next support area. And that's exactly what happened. The price came down perfectly into our more broad, important structure from the low down here all the way up to the high of this structure. We came down to the retracement perfectly, bottoming out the 0.618 at 81.2K, right? And then once we were down here, I made a video. I said like, hey, we filled this in very well. I wouldn't be surprised if we try to get a retracement from this overall move down, a retracement back, uh, to factor in this, quick move down before we could potentially start moving down a bit more. Next thing you know, we filled in the retracement perfectly. The 0.35 at 85, 0.5K filled perfectly. The RSI is also showing perfect fill up to the upside as well. And now we're trying to see if we can make our way lower. At this point now, what we're looking for is, in order for us to go ahead and assume that, hey, things are maybe going to be turning around. This is just a little bit of a fear dip because tariffs are going to be coming into play. Then we want to try to find support in here. If we are not going to have, at least in my opinion, it's very, very clear because right now the 120 moving average is, within this area right here. As you can see, it's leveling out within around that 83.5K area. So if we can come down, find support within this green, this will set us up for, maybe a break over this descending support line so we can finally start using it as a actual support. And then, so come down here, find support, pump up higher, or we can do that early, but pump up higher due to anticipation of these tariffs already being factored in. And then we want to, retest this line as support so we can try to push up higher, and then we can go ahead and start forming a new potential area, which at this point, what it will look like is that we can replace this, right? So we can replace this. We can use the low, current high, and then the low of this right here. If this holds up to be an actual bullish setup, because technically, if you consider this overall move up right here as a first wave on an overall picture 5 wave, right? Back up into the 6 digits, then this is a reasonable second wave retracement. We have, we have a simple retracement area where it comes down and maxed it out the 0.618 retracement, and now it's starting to move higher. If we can continue to hold this area, or maybe even find support down here, if we can hold this area, what it will look like is, this second wave is actually in. It's a bigger picture second wave, and then a third wave that can bring us up back into the 90s, potentially even breaking 100K once again. And what that can look like is within this structure on the smaller picture. I'm not going to draw it up. It's a first wave here. We have a second wave top, factoring in this retracement area. So second wave, or sorry, no. Oh wait, I'm wrong. Hold on. I'm getting ahead of myself too much. This is where it starts down here. We have a first wave in, a potential second wave, a third wave up here, and then we'll have a fourth wave at that point, and then a fifth wave that will bring us well above, 100K. But the thing is, in order for this to hold valid, we don't want to break below like 83K really. We don't want to see below 83K. At that point, bearish momentum will continue building, and we can easily see sub 80K levels once again. And if we can go into sub 80K levels, we're looking, we're looking for some deeper values at that point. We can easily go not just into the, the 70s, but potentially it is very, very possible, until we have a solid uptrend confirmation. It's very possible we can go into the low 70s, potentially even into the 60s briefly. And I mean briefly. It won't last very long if we go down into that area. It's not super likely, but it's still possible as long as, we continue to not see an uptrend confirmation. As of right now, we are getting held back, into a bigger picture, kind of like downtrend. But regardless, we're going to be out of this real soon. We're going to see Bitcoin back into 100K, in my opinion. This is a very bullish year, and I believe that Bitcoin has a lot to look forward to in 2025. We're just going to see a lot of short-term weakness due to tariffs and inflation, but then next thing you know, we'll be much higher. But until a lot of this is fixed, until the structure starts showing otherwise, we're looking for lower prices right now, to be honest. So I'm looking for lower prices. I want to see sub 80K levels once again, but this will be invalidated if Bitcoin can hold above that 0.618 and to start forming somewhat of a continuation on this overall uptrend that is forming. As of right now, we're just waiting to see if that's going to hold valid or not. But until it does, I'm going to keep assuming that we're going to see lower prices. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Hopefully this made sense.